Sans began to speak. Listen up, you two. The way things have been going lately, we really need to have a serious conversation. Sora interjected, I agree, but I think we should have this talk in the privacy of our dorm room. Sans sighed and begrudgingly agreed. Fine, let's just make this quick, he said, following Sora inside their dorm room. Once they were all seated, Sans cleared his throat and got straight to the point. Look, guys, I'm worried about you too. You're both great students and all, but lately, your grades have been slipping. And not just a little bit either. Sora and Shiro looked at each other, their expressions serious. They knew Sans was right, they had been struggling to keep up with their coursework. But they also knew that they had been preoccupied with trying to unravel the mystery of their past. We know, Sans, Sora said. We've been trying our best to keep up with everything, but we've also been trying to figure out what happened to us before we came to this school. Sans nodded understandingly. I get that, but you can't let it consume you. You're here to learn and grow, not just to solve a mystery. Maybe you need to take a break from that for a little while and focus on your studies. Sora and Shiro looked at each other, contemplating Sans' words. He had a point, they couldn't let their obsession with their past prevent them from succeeding in their present. Okay, Sans, Shiro said, determined. We'll take your advice and focus on our studies for now. We can't let this mystery consume us. Sans smiled, relieved. Good to hear it. You guys are too talented to let your grades slip. Now, let's get back to work. Sans chuckled to himself and shook his head. All right, enough of that. That's not why I'm here, guys. Clearing his throat, Sans addressed Sora and Shiro with a serious tone. I need to talk to you guys about something important regarding our classmates. Me, my brother, you, and your sister are in trouble. Sora and Shiro exchanged a worried look. What do you mean by getting rid of us? Are they planning to hurt us? Sora asked, concern etched on his face. Sans shook his head. Not physically, but they might try to expel us from the school or make our lives miserable here. We can't let them have their way. Shiro frowned. But what can we do? We're not exactly the strongest students here. Sans grinned mischievously. Who said we have to play fair? We just have to be smarter than them. And lucky for us, that's our specialty. Sora and Shiro nodded, feeling a sense of determination wash over them. They knew they couldn't let anyone mess with them or their friends. It was time to put their skills to the test and outsmart their rivals. Sans said with a sly grin, that's why I brought a teacher with me today. We three are going to make a purchase together. As the screen faded to black, Sora and Shiro exchanged a glance, wondering what exactly Sans had in mind. On the screen, the words a few hours later appear. Papyrus scribbled numbers with a black permanent marker on a bunch of gym equipment as he prepared to move them. Glancing at his brother, Papyrus saw that Sans was lounging against the wall, waiting for him. Papyrus called out excitedly, Sans, are you ready to play our game? As he sprinted toward Sans with the cart full of gym equipment, Papyrus carefully maneuvered around the corners of the hallway, trying not to let any of the equipment fall off. The cart was loaded with basketballs, baseballs, dodgeballs, hula hoops, and other sports equipment. As he approached Sans, he stopped abruptly, causing the cart to shake violently. Let's get this game started, Sans. Papyrus exclaimed with excitement, sweat trickling down his forehead. I've been waiting for this all day. He began unloading the equipment from the cart and setting it up in the gymnasium. Sans leaned against the wall, watching as Papyrus eagerly prepared for the game they were about to play. Papyrus rushed over to Sans with a cart full of gym equipment, including basketballs, baseballs, and more. "Oh, Sans, I can't wait to show you the game/puzzle I have created with these objects," he exclaimed with excitement. Sans smiled softly, watching his brother enjoy himself. "Sounds like a blast, Pap," he replied. "What's the game/puzzle about?" he asked, curiously. Papyrus grinned mischievously. "It's a surprise, Sans. You'll have to wait and see," he teased, grabbing some basketballs and bouncing them around the gym. Papyrus grabbed a tennis ball and held it up for Sans to see. Papyrus, "All right, Sans, I will go over the rules," said Papyrus as he grabbed a tennis ball. "You see this round green ball, right?" Sans, "Sure thing, bro. But that's a tennis ball, not a weird green ball." Papyrus nodded and continued, Right, the tennis ball is our movement." He then proceeded to show Sans all the different sides of the ball with different arrows and numbers, explaining how each move would work in the game. Papyrus began to speak, "Now then, you see," but was suddenly cut off by a loud outburst of vulgar language. A voice shouted, "Who ruined all the gym equipment?" Kakeru Ryuan surveyed the destroyed gym equipment with a look of disbelief as several Class 1C students accompanied him. Papyrus piped up, I did it. Do you wish to join our game also?" Sans was too late to stop Papyrus from admitting to the vandalism. Kakeru Ryuan's displeasure was evident as he marched towards Papyrus and Sans, clearly angry about the destroyed gym equipment. He had been looking forward to playing and showing off his skills. Sans knew he had to intervene before the situation escalated, so he quickly stepped in front of Kakeru and Papyrus, breaking the tense silence between the three of them. Kakeru Ryuan scowled and spoke, "Out of my way. My business is with the screw-up behind you, not you." Sans stepped forward and stood his ground. "That's my brother you're talking about, and he's no screw-up. If you've got a problem with him, you've got a problem with me." Kakeru Ryuan's expression didn't change, but Sans could tell he was sizing him up. "Is that so? Well, then. Maybe I have a problem with you, too." Sans didn't flinch. "Bring it on. But if you want to settle this, it's not going to be through violence. Let's talk it out like adults." Sans let out a heavy sigh and addressed Kakeru Ryuan, "Look, I understand you're upset about the equipment, but taking it out on my brother isn't the answer. I'll use my class points to pay for the damages if you promise to leave him alone and not cause any more trouble." Kakeru Ryuan narrowed his eyes and sneered, "You think I'm that easily bought off? This is about more than just the equipment. You and your brother have been nothing but trouble since day one, and I'm not going to let you off the hook that easily." Kakeru Ryuan stood firmly and replied, "I'm not leaving until I get what I came for. I'm tired of you two causing trouble and it's time to teach you a lesson." Sans let out a deep sigh and spoke, "I was hoping it wouldn't come to this." He stepped forward, ready to defend his brother. "But if you want a fight, you've got one." Kakeru Ryuan sneered and got into a fighting stance, ready to take on Sans. But as the two of them squared off, Papyrus stepped between them. "Stop it, both of you," he shouted, his voice echoing through the empty gym. "This is ridiculous. We can't keep fighting like this." Sans and Kakeru Ryuan hesitated, looking at each other and then at Papyrus. Kakeru Ryuan took advantage of the distraction and swung at Sans, knocking him to the side. Sans fell to the ground as liquid spilled from his pocket. As he tried to get up and pleaded with Kakeru not to hurt his brother. Kakeru Ryuan approached Papyrus with aggressive intent, causing a commotion of thrashing and struggling. Meanwhile, other members of Class 1C had surrounded Sans, who had just stood up. Suddenly, the group attacked Sans by throwing basketballs and dodgeballs at him, causing him to fall to the ground in pain. The group of Class 1C students viciously attacked Sans, throwing basketballs and dodgeballs at him with deadly accuracy. Sans tried to dodge and deflect the incoming objects, but there were too many of them coming at him at once. The sound of his screams filled the gym, and even Papyrus was horrified at the sight before him. The other students watched in silence, some with a hint of satisfaction on their faces. The assault continued for what felt like an eternity, until Sans finally fell to the ground, unconscious and battered. The gym fell silent, the only sound the heavy breathing of the students who had just committed such a heinous act. Hours later, both brothers lay on the ground, their bodies battered and bloodied. Sans struggled to speak. "Don't worry, Papyrus. This was all part of my plan," he said weakly, but there was no answer from Papyrus, who lay motionless beside him. Sans knew that he had to act fast to save his brother's life. He gathered all the strength he had left and crawled over to his brother. "Rewrite." Sans desperately shook his brother's lifeless body, tears streaming down his face as he cried out for help. "Pap? Pap? Wake up, please." But there was no response. Sans screamed desperately for help, his voice echoing through the empty gym. But there was no response, no one around to hear his cries. He felt a sense of dread creeping up inside him, as he realized he was alone with his unconscious brother in a room full of broken equipment and blood. There was no response to Sans' desperate plea for help, as nobody came to aid the brothers who lay on the ground in pain and agony. The gym remained silent and deserted, with no sign of any assistance or support. As an image flashed in Sans' mind, he saw the words "You cried for help," but nobody came, and he realized the harsh truth that they were on their own. Sans wept and wailed, holding on to his brother Papyrus, who lay lifeless on the ground. "Papyrus, Papyrus," he cried out repeatedly, his voice filled with anguish. This was not supposed to go this way.